Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Klabin Day 2021. I am Adriana Bittar, and I am going to be with you in this event. Another year has gone by, and it's time to share with you, investors and analysts, Klabin's results for this last year. It is a moment to harvest results and replant our next guidelines for the future. Before we start, some important messages. Our event has simultaneous interpreting from Portuguese into English, and on the top right corner of your screen, you can choose the language in which you want to hear this event. Part of our agenda is going to be dedicated to answering your questions, so send the questions by the chat area, which is on the right side of your screen. And a final message, also important, we know that with vaccination going forward, pandemic is controlled, but it is crucial that we still take care of ourselves because it is not over yet. Safety is one of Klabin's pillars, and everyone that is here in this studio have been tested, and everyone is respecting social distancing, and behind the cameras, everyone is wearing masks. Very well. Here on the stage with me, Alexandre Nicolini, Executive Director for Pulp Business Unit, Ana Cristina Barcelos, People and Corporate Services Director, Cristiano Teixeira, Chief Executive Officer for Klabin, Douglas Dalmasi, Packaging Director for Klabin, Flavio Negonucci, Paper Business Director, Francisco Rosolini, Director of Industry Technology, Innovation, Sustainability, and Projects, and Marcos Ivo, Financial and Investor Relations Officer. So officially start our agenda with Klabin's CEO, Cristiano Teixeira. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good night, you investor that is with us from anywhere in the world. This is a day for you so that you can understand the company, a company that has a long history and that needs to be understood every day because we are constantly renewing ourselves. We always learned that reputation is a product of what you do, of your attitude. That's why we value Klabin's attitude. So I would like to ask you to pay attention to all our directors' presentations. You will see that we promise what we deliver, and we deliver what we promise. And we have a strong team in-house, and we have a team that is prepared to replace any of us at any time so that the company doesn't lose its space. This is a company that is connected to the future, and we are connected to the new trends. We are growing, not letting go, paying dividends to our shareholders. So please pay attention throughout this presentation to all of our directors, and I will come back and talk to you a little bit more at the end of those. Thank you very much, Cristiano, for your initial remarks. And Klabin is committed to value generation during this growth journey. So now let's continue talking about the results that we are harvesting today after decisions made in the past. We will see the perspectives to replant the future with the directors of Pulp Business Unit, also Paper and Packaging. We will start with Alexandre Nicolini, Executive Director for Pulp and Business Unit. Welcome, Nico. Thank you very much, Adriana. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. 2021 is going down the history for Klabin as a year that talks about all the businesses in the company and the strong results that we have reached over the year, but mainly thanks to the fruits that we are harvesting from the past years. I have to start talking about 2021 by mentioning two important steps for Klabin, which are about the performance of our business. So the startup of our Puma unit where Klabin intended to sell 3 different types of pulp, and this is the only company in Brazil that is producing these 3 types of fiber. The second important step came with the transition of the contract from Flavio, which was anticipated in a little over 2 years, and that happened by the end of 2019. I bring to you now a slide that you already know, or most of you know. And here we have our 3 business areas in the pulp business. Short fiber of eucalyptus, 25 million ton market, the largest growing market now. And Klabin has a competitive advantage here, and also the quality service level that we provide to our services. The long fiber market of 20 million tons, a relevant market, and with great opportunities for Klabin. And Klabin is having a good performance here since the Puma startup as well. And also fluff market, which is a specialized one of higher added value. And here Klabin is competing at a more consolidated market with players that are renowned in the market. Klabin now is working in the pulp market, and this market is growing at healthy rates. The new capacities are more concentrated in short fiber, and obviously in long fiber and fluff, we have an expectation that the demand will be higher than the supply in the next 5 years. Now, talking a little bit about our assets, Klabin also has a special position in short fiber. The Puma startup happened in 2015. Obviously, Klabin is competing with assets of a high competitiveness as well, but we have a quality product and a service level that is increasingly high as well. As far as long fiber is concerned, Klabin has a special position also because of cost and the age of the asset. This is a more consolidated market. These are centenarial producers concentrated in Nordic countries and Canada. And Klabin is gaining position in the past few years and also strengthening this position in the market. In the fluff market, which it is a more concentrated market, fewer players in the market with older assets of high cost, and that's not very competitive. And here Klabin is really with great advantage, both in terms of cost as well as quality, and competing with all the other producers. Now, talking about our growth strategy and also of the fruits that we harvested in the past few years, the transition with the Fibria contract happened in the 4th quarter of 2019. We started 2020 as the first solo flight for Klabin. It was a difficult year. The market was unbalanced. The supply and demand also were unbalanced. There was the beginning of the pandemic, a pandemic that caused a few complications. But even then, Klabin, with a strong leadership position in Brazil, was able to minimize the impacts of the pandemic. And because also we had a lower demand than what was expected for the year. So we were able to review our commercial strategy, also market approach that we would have starting 2021, a repositioning, and I will talk more about that in terms of our global mix, and new contracting for different markets. All this work that was done throughout 2020 allowed us to have important results, new partnerships, new clients, the consolidation of Klabin in relevant markets, an optimization of the sales mix. And this is a constant work that we are still doing, and that's we do it at a very good pace. We had 90% of our production already contracted for this year, and this is good for us in terms of the flow of our pulp and new developments in products that are part of Klabin's DNA. And all of that was translated in sound results for this year of 2021. And here I have the business performance. Starting 2020, we started 2020 with a slow market. It was very complex. Klabin had a contracted volume for the year that was very low at the time. We had a high exposure to Chinese market, which was the one that had the highest blow in 2020. And starting in that year, we started working with several clients in order to strengthen our market position, bringing more competitiveness to the Brazilian market, which is a very relevant market for Klabin. We established long-term partnerships, always considering what we consider the one-stop shop. That is, customers being able to buy the 3 types of fiber from a single supplier. We also focus on quality and service level, which now are recognized by the market. And obviously, by talking to customers, we found 2 very important topics nowadays that are about innovation and sustainability. So in 2021, we were able to have over 90% of our production contracted, and we went beyond. Also in 2020, we contracted 50% of our production for 2022. We are going to start next year at a total level of contracting of 92%. So that places us at a very good position. We know that the pulp market is a cyclic market, is volatile, and having 92% of our volume contracted allow us to feel safe in terms of selling all our production. Now, talking about our geographic distribution here, we have more details. You can see that Klabin is a diversified company and with great flexibility. So in yellow, we have 2020. We have an excessive consolidation in China. It was hugely dependent on China because of large contracted volumes. It was a year that we learned a lot. We had a higher exposure to the foreign market. We had to restructure ourselves, and we had to contact other customers or other clients to explore potential businesses that could allow us to be safer in terms of selling our mix of products. Starting in 2021, our exposure to Asia Pacific market came down. We continued growing in Brazil. This is a relevant market in Brazil. Now we have a larger footprint in the American market, which is very important, especially in the tissue market, which is very important for the business. They are one of the highest consumers for virgin fiber consumption, and we also decrease our exposure to exotic market where we have lower competitive levels, and we always prefer to have long-term contracts. So this evolution of these long-term partnerships translated in the mix that you see in blue for 2022, where we start having a very relevant exposure in Brazil, mainly in Brazil, but also in Latin America, with almost 39% of our production capacity for these markets. In the European market, which is a mature market and that continues to grow at healthy levels. For 2021, that was a very important market for Klabin. We have long-term contracts, a little bit more growth in the North American market, and also African, Pacific, and Middle East exposure, market exposure as well. So that shows that we are positioning ourselves in long fiber, eucalyptus, and fluff, and with a sound and diversified approach. And now I bring to you our crown, the jewel of the crown, machine 26. This is the machine that produces fluff and long fiber. This is a flexible machine. It has the capacity of switch among them. Obviously, Klabin throughout the past years is focusing mainly in the fluff market, which is a market that has higher added value. This is a market where we have a very high competitive level. Today, MC26 is operating at the limit of the fiber production. And why am I saying that? Because we had greater focus on fluff. We still have some share in long fiber because we are the largest producer in Brazil and the largest supplier for Brazil in long fiber. This is a very important market, as I already mentioned a few times, and we do need to maintain a share there. But fluff now corresponds to almost 70% of the production of this machine. This competitive level that we have is very positive because it stresses Klabin position in the fluff in the Brazilian market for fluff, but also in other global accounts, which allows us to have great visibility of this product. Here we have a little bit of the last developments by Klabin. When Klabin started, the fluff production process was mainly working in the more basic segment of this product, which is the non-treated pulp. And throughout 2021, thanks to several developments and with clients, qualification tests, and also a very active R&D area, now we have some new products that are in our final stages of tests, which are Excel Fluff Pulp. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry we did have a technical issue here. I'm going to go back to the slide on our machine 26, which is our machine for long fiber and fluff. As we usually say, this is the jewel of the crown. This is a very competitive machine with several production records and also a speed record of 206 meters per second. This is a world record. We are very proud about this machine. This is a flexible machine. We're able to produce long fiber and bales as well as fluff. Obviously, Klabin, in the past few years, it is concentrating production more in the fluff market, which is a more specialized market. And that's where Klabin is competing with the main producers in the segment. Today, Klabin has more or less 70% of the production of this machine in the fluff market, and we maintain 30% in long fiber, which has an important role, especially to supply to the domestic market. And Klabin is the only supplier of long fiber for this market. In terms of development, this is a machine that is flexible, as I mentioned, throughout this year, in a strong partnership with our innovation and R&D areas. We ran several tests for different products. Klabin was working with the most basic segment of fluff, and we know that this segment has other areas in which we have great potential in terms of development, and Klabin developed the new products that are now in the qualification stage, and we have sales potential starting next year. These are fluff products of higher added value, and here we're talking about a TCF fluff, chlorine-free, a treated fluff, a fluff with odor control, and also XL fluff, which is hybrid. It has a little bit of short fiber, but most of it is made out of a long fiber with no damage to the performance and quality of the product. So you might check out our new products next year. As next steps here for the business, I should mention that the focus will always be in Puma's operating excellence. This is a highly competitive factory. We are constantly focusing on costs as well. One of our assumptions is to increase the share in clients and strategic segments. Klabin now has a low exposure of 15% in printing paper and a greater focus of specialty papers and tissue. So that places us in a very good position as well, focusing in segments that are growing at healthy rates. Our business model is flexible in terms of sales and operating areas. Klabin will do everything it can to maintain a sales mix to bring in results so that we are a business unit with high margins and with results that really comply with all investments made, and obviously development of higher added values, which translate into products with greater margins and greater price premiums. I will stop now and I'll come back at the end to take your questions. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much, Nico. I would like to remind you that throughout the presentations, you can send your questions via chat. Later on, we will have a Q&A session with Cristiano and all the officers of Klabin. So do send your questions and let us know who the questions are for. So we will keep on talking about results, deliveries, and future projects. And now, Flavio Negonucci, Paper Business Director. Please, Flavio. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here. This is a special year for the world of pulp and paper, especially packaging paper. Here, we usually say that it is as if the demand and what we thought for the future, especially migrating packages for our type of product, as it has been brought forward 2 or 3 years. So it's very special because now we have the new equipment, Machine 27. I will talk more about that. And also we are building Machine 28, which will produce top-notch cardboard, coated board for the whole world. I think this is the most emblematic picture that we have. This is equipment building in a difficult moment, and we did this in the pandemic. And on August 30th, we have this beautiful picture at 2 a.m. after a lot of technology, a lot of struggle, a lot of cooperation. Here we see not only the equipment is a state-of-the-art machine and the only one developed to have low-weight kraft liner, 100% eucalyptus. Here we have a product that has been patented by Klabin. We are able to reach weight ranges that we cannot easily find in this market, and we can develop a product that has a sustainable approach that is beyond the conventional. And also in this picture, we have a great team. Paraná and Ortigueira city, close to Telemaco, where we have Monte Alegre site. It has a huge pocket, not only of forest equipment, but also good people people trained and prepared to make this happen. The figures are there. Starting on August 30th, and here I have September, the first full month, we have a production scaling. This is the curve of the machine, considering its maximum capacity. In November, we have reached 75% of what we aimed for. It is a little bit over its original curve, and for 2022, we plan 87% of production and a percentage of total capacity. This is not a traditional machine. In addition to having barrier applicators before the finishing of the product, here we have the figures of Eucaliner and Eucaliner white. Another thing that we promised and we delivered. We ran dozens of tests. Eucaliner goes back to the 80s in Klabin. It was built little by little in the current machines, and then in cooperation with the packaging area, fibers that would travel to be tested in Brazil and in the world, the development of this specification, the believing in technology, and then on August 30th, we had the proven efficacy with the results that you see there. So this product not only saves in terms of weight, but also allows our clients to increase the speed of their own machines, therefore save energy. And that also has been proven because Klabin has this integrated model and uses its own packaging area to convert this paper. Also, I highlight 3 elements on the bottom. Eucaliner, our main product for this machine. Eucafluid. This is a semi-chemical dedicated to special boxes, for instance, export of protein and fruits. And Eucaliner white. Brazil doesn't have much of these products, neither South America. So this machine will manufacture products that are now imported from Europe and other areas, and we'll have this product being sold in Brazil with great performance.
So we decided to sell this machine ahead of time, maybe a unique feature of the kraft liners market. We made 70% of advanced sales of the machine. We chose that because 30% of the sales were due to market conditions. So the contracts that are outlined in this world map show the main destinations of the contracts we have signed. Of course, we try to fit this product where 100% eucalyptus, virgin fiber, and print quality make more sense. Therefore, we chose destinations where this relates to our product so well. As I said in the beginning, now in 2021, we see what we were imagining to see in 2025. We have robust growth numbers, 3 million in 2000 tons in 2020, more than 5 million tons combining virgin and recycled fibers, and it continues to grow. The transformation rhythm on e-commerce or the migration of packaging from plastic materials to our products continues to be more and more consolidated. This is an example of the European market. The dark blue part of the bars represent traditional growth anchored in industrial growth and the organic growth of each of the European countries. What we see in the other colors, in yellow, e-commerce, and in purple, plastic replacement, adds almost 1 million tons per year in terms of demand. And this is only the beginning. We're seeing that this is sustainable. Of course, the pandemic expedited this process, but it remains in a structural way in Klabin's vision. A little bit more about the future. A beautiful decision aligned with the shareholders to transform the second machine at Puma, Machine 28, into a machine ready to make coated boards. You know that Klabin produces high-level coated boards for the liquid packaging markets, for the multi-packing markets, especially beers and bottles and cans, and there are many other applications. And you can see this is a recent picture of the past few days of the construction of Machine 28. On the left, we have Machine 27 that is producing the numbers that I just showed you. We're also happy to find this timing, with starting this machine at special moments in terms of price, demand, drivers. I show you here the projected growth for this year. The world continues to grow. Klabin is not present in all segments. Klabin chooses to act especially in the most premium segments today. CUK for the multi-packing market, food service for cups and trays, LPB, that's the liquid food items, and transformation foods. So this is a universe of special coated board products, that require barriers. So that's what we are investing in, and it's a universe of products that require short fibers, long fibers, and technology. So that's where we're believing Machine 28 will fit in. I also bring you, in addition to looking at organic growth, what adds to this migration of plastic packagings. It's an important consultancy that has been with us in this journey. This number of additional 3 million in the 10-year route is very conservative. It's something that we came from the analysis of each type of packaging where transformation is simpler or more complex and where we need to invest in CapEx with our customers. But in conservative terms, we do see great growth in the coated boards market. In line with all of this, we have an image of our container terminal. This is right next to our plant in Ortigueira. We have access to the railway, the ability to load the containers both for railroads and highways, and the capacity of receiving production from the Ortigueira plant right next to it, but also the production from Monte Alegre to export through the port of Paranaguá. So it's very important. It's a private container site in a state as Paraná. And construction of the future. We recently began building. You see that it's a highly privileged location in the container terminal in the port of Paranaguá. Another aspect that is very important, you must have seen the logistics difficulties and the container element. Very quickly, here you have a picture of the products made by Machine 27, the large reels. making the most of Klabin's flexibility, using the ships that export or transport pulp to Europe, carrying it on a break bulk format. It brings advantages in terms of costs and flexibility to supply markets that require so much of our product. A little bit more now about the future. This is quite impressive. It's our pilot plant for MFC in lignin next to the Technology Center in Paraná. From this plant, in the pre-industrial scale, we're harvesting this treated fiber. MFC here is the microfibrillated pulp. We add it to one of our main coated board products, and we are able to reduce the weight of those packages. So in practical terms, these numbers show the ability of creating a multi-pack that it's at least 10% lighter. I also have here a breakdown of our present and our future. Today, we already make packages with water barrier, the Klafod FZ in the first picture. We also have Klafod GB for the grease barrier. Many food products can remove the plastic from the interior of the packages because of the solution. We're very close to launching two important products. One, a barrier to water vapor in the top picture. Of course, we want to preserve the characteristics of the product inside the box, and this barrier will also replace polyethylene that's used as the current barrier, and a Placa Bio that's from renewable sources. This market adds value to us. I showed you briefly that the growth of the coated board market is structural, based on important drivers. And when we combine this growth with the barrier product, especially for the food industry, the numbers we have there is 7.7%. So again, a very significant growth related to special products with different types of barrier. And here the joy of a recognition of this relationship that has many decades. We were recently in Switzerland, and we received the main sustainability award from this great client of ours. They recognize Klabin's best practices in forest management. And because we have a mosaic planted forest, we're capable to maintain a high-level biodiversity. And this recognition is very important, very special, and we're very grateful. Closing my remarks, of course, I'll remain available for your questions later, but we have the combination of different elements, the right timing, exploring the Eucaliner family with its multiple products, building machine 28, a unique machine that will come at a very special moment, and the combination of these products, either with MFC or barriers. This is a route that expresses the good choices Klabin has made over the last few decades. I'll be available for your questions. Thank you. Flavio, thank you very much. Let's learn more now about the results that have been reached, the opportunities and the expectations with the Executive Director of the Packaging Business Unit, Douglas Dalmasi. Welcome, Douglas. Thank you, Adriana. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. As you know, and we always say, the packaging business integrates and adds value to the highly competitive business model that comes from our forests, our paper factories. It brings flexibility to us so that we can act in the multiple types of markets, optimizing results. It stabilizes the results of our growth and also places us at our customers, bringing the trends and how consumers seek to improve packaging and meet the needs of the consumers. As Flavio said in the previous presentation, we have grown in the production of packaging paper, but in packaging we also grew. And we had to keep up with that growth in order to maintain our integrated model and generate value. In this period that we reported on previous Klabin days, our market share went from 16 to 24%. So our share, especially through acquisitions in the coated boards and corrugated boxes came from acquisitions, but brownfield projects as well, adding value in the packaging chain. So we know how to make M&As and delivers results, and the results that we brought through these acquisitions came better than we had expected or anticipated in the models and prospects that we showed our investors. We're also an innovative company. We have a platform that is in tune in the customers' homes, but also well prepared within our structure to bring innovation to the market. So we brought a lot of variety. I'll show you some of them in a minute. But today we have a platform and an innovation pipeline and product launch pipeline that is prepared to any types of needs and pains of our customers. We also increased our international presence more in the paper bags area. We opened markets today and have a relevant presence, especially in North America, which opens a very important growth route for us for the coming years. And that all increased profitability as well, adding value and competitiveness from the forest to the production of papers, integrating and generating results in packaging as well. There are two important messages on this slide. It shows the resilience and growth of this industry. The left side shows the GDP in the period. The central part shows the performance of the packaging market, a growth above the GDP, more than 4% in that period. And we are highly above the market due to acquisitions and incremental projects. We grew more than 11% in line with our investments and maintaining the level of integration and bringing the results that this area adds so much value to. If we extend this period, we're going to see the same behavior. The growth is always higher than the GDP. So where does this value come from, this growth above the GDP growth? Has a great share. The corrugated boxes has a great share in the food industry. And when the GDP goes down, it goes down less. And when the GDP grows, we grow more. And we have shares of industries where Brazil has high share, for example, in exports, for example, for meats, proteins, and fruits. And we also have a competitive edge. Our integration brings us an important edge because we have virgin fiber. In this case, especially in the export of proteins and fruits, there's a high share of virgin fibers for technical requirements of the packaging to export these products. And we can also have a high share, making the best of this competitive edge that Brazil has and that these industries have brought historically and will bring for coming years. In terms of the bags, we've been able to reduce our share. The chart on the left shows that in the cement industry, it's not that we reduced our volume, we reduced our share. We are prepared to participate in the growth of the cement industry with investments and technology, but we have developed other routes, as I said before, for exports, especially in North America. That what the dark blue shows, our share momentum, and we developed other uses, other markets, bags that have more added value and more profitability. So today we have different paths for growth, and now we have a good problem. We have to invest to bring more returns and more growth to the company. On the right side, we have significant changes that will drive this market even further. We have a relevant change that has been happening in the world. Europe has gone through that. Mexico is doing that now. Argentina will do that in 2024. And Brazil will have this change up to 2028. That's changing the bags from 50 kilos down to 25 kilograms. That will bring a higher number of packages and a higher consumption of paper, bringing our volumes to even higher levels. This market of paper bags, without a doubt, is the market where we have the greatest overlap with plastics. So we're starting to navigate, and we're going to invest to increase our share in low-weight bags that compete with the single-use bags Today we're increasing, expanding our portfolio. We started to launch products that have lower grammage. We'll invest to enter these markets because when we go to the supermarket today, the pouches, for example, are all plastic. But the customers with a sustainability mind are asking for these types of products in the market. So the low grammage products demand will increase in the few coming years. It's a great leverage for growth and the packaging market. Now, all this diversity and this growth, we can harvest the fruits in terms of profitability. This is the history of our prices by diversification, by growth. We increased in bags in the center by more than 40% in this period, and in corrugated boxes almost 60%, a result of products with higher added value as well as growth of the market. Trends now. When we talk about trends, we tend to think about, oh, that's the future. No, this is what's happening today. Sustainability is a huge strength of our industry. Circular economy in Brazil and in our sector in the world is mature. So this is an advantage that we have with our packages. It's a product that biodegrades quickly. It's recyclable, coming from renewable sources. That's another special advantage that sustainability brings us. E-commerce is a reality. Over the last 2 years, it was even boosted even more in retail. The share of e-commerce on retail before the pandemic was about 5 or 6%, and today it responds to more than 10%, becoming stable at this level and growing. The projection for coming years is a CAGR of more than 21%, and Klabin is prepared for that. We have platforms that meet the needs to accelerate the e-commerce of traditional customers, as well as accelerating the sales at marketplaces and the pains that marketplace customers have. We are prepared to solve and provide solutions, and we also have our own paper product marketplace, Klabin for You, where we provide solutions for small consumers and even individuals. And with the entry of e-commerce, our customers are giving more and more importance to design and the appearance. It's a way of communicating. When the product arrives at the client's house, they want to show their brand and their product with a sophisticated appeal and messages that may add an experience when the client receives that product. These are some examples. In sustainability, we're very proud of showing you all this. The first example is our Hydrodispersible Package. We won the ABRE Award for functional packaging. It's a cement bag that is thrown directly in the equipment to add water, and it dissolves in that paste, optimizing the entire chain with the advantage of not having to take the packages and send it back for recycling. It's a high contribution in terms of sustainability and optimization. Our eco-layer bags for mortar, we removed a plastic film pellicle that was in this present in this package to extend the shelf life of mortar, and their shelf life is increased. It used to be 6 months, and with the water barrier applied and all our barrier developments, we've been able to increase the shelf life, and we were able to remove the plastic barrier with replacing it with a sustainable barrier. The example on the right, Bunge published on their website the change of the packages and to adopting the use of paper bags, and we are partners with the relevant volume. And with Vedacit, the change from the plastic buckets to a paper package, reducing the plastic footprint by 80% on this package. In terms of e-commerce, our Box on Demand project, especially the fan fold, where we provide a continuous corrugated board for the customer, and they make the package exactly, the box exactly for that order, optimizing the packaging material, leaving no extra room that is not necessary, optimizing freight in the chain. We have our e-commerce solutions with digital prints or high graphic prints, adding to the customer's experience. And on the right, the new developments in design and aesthetics with packaging for customers such as TB. We also won the ABRI Award. This is a low grammage bag, a paper bag, that brings sustainability, makes consumers' lives easier, and adding to bring an experience to the customer. The display bags to replace the use of packages in the potato market. And at the bottom, it's a package for mattresses. It was thought out especially for that. This particular customer wants to add an experience since the opening of the package and the contact with that mattress. So it's a sophisticated package to customers that really values the experience that we'll provide to their final consumers. With all that, the growth projections, the chart on the left shows the size of the market and the growth. Containerboard worldwide with a growth of almost 2%, and sack kraft that it historically had a growth of around 1% over the last few years, and the trend indicates to maintain a growth above 4%. So it changed levels, sack kraft for bags, but also great growth on containerboard expected for the coming years with all the appeals that paper packaging has. On the right side, we see that in the different markets, Latin America is the fastest growing. And within Latin America, Brazil holds the highest share and also drives this growth up for the next few years. We are present at important markets that are growing at relevant levels for coming years, and this is already a reality we have today. What about the future? What are the next steps in the packaging business? To summarize, you saw that historically it is above the GDP. We have the trends that will now drive this growth even further. We're prepared for that with prints and sophisticated products, meeting and solving the pains and the needs of our customers. We do have the advantage of integration that brings profitability to Klabin's model. We have our eyes on and to increase the level of Klabin's involvement, prepared to face all types of needs from our customers with new products, with technology from printing to different or outstanding static products, adding value and profitability to our products in this chain. Have a great day, and thank you. I'll be available for your questions at the end. Excellent, Douglas. Thank you. Klabin has been delivering solid, consistent results through its integrated business model that is diverse and flexible. A very present aspect in all of Klabin's business areas is sustainability. Let's now learn more from the results of the recent projects on this topic and what is coming with Francisco Razzolini, Executive Director of Industrial Technology, Innovation, Sustainability, and Projects. Thank you, Adriana, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone who's following us. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. It's such a distinct, dear audience. I think it's almost the 20th edition with APIMAC, with this work with our investors. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, especially such a relevant topic for us as sustainability. Sustainability permeates as the essence of Klabin. Over the past many years, we've been working on this and with a higher focus at each time. On the most recent APIMAC editions, we brought our trends and views of sustainability and how Klabin was working on this topic in-house. At APIMAC 2017, we brought details of our biodiversity in our areas, how we were working. At that time, we were already showing we had 86% of renewable energy sources, almost 98% of all our raw materials were also from renewable sources. In 2018, we talked a lot about the macro trends, the mega trends, and how Klabin was seeing these mega trends and how they would go or become part of the development of our strategy for our growth and investments. Last year, we had the opportunity of launching here at APIMAC our Klabin 2030 agenda that we named as CODS, the Klabin Sustainable Development Goals. These targets are 23 for 2030, involving 11 priority topics for Klabin, involving 14 out of 17 SDGs, and they were organized and structured in such a way that we can keep track of the targets, of the goals, the evolution of those goals, and that's how we've been addressing this and keeping up with them as they happen. This year, we launched an ESG panel at the company's portal at our website. You can go there or either through the QR code on the right of the presentation screen or esg.klabin.com.br. It has the performance and our evolution and our goals, our targets, our ESG indicators, a complete panel with all the targets in line with the principles or the main frameworks at SASB, TCFD, GRI, CDP. And it shows the history and the traceability of how we are moving forward on each one of the relevant topics for our goals. We also worked on the sustainability roadmap in line with our expansion plans. We've been working for future evolution. We've integrated the sustainability goals to the variable remuneration of all levels of managers, as well as all of our employees, since they are all part of our PPR program, or payment program of variable salaries to all of our employees, all our workers. And we're counting on the evolution of the results in our ESG dashboard. What's very important in 2021 for Klabin was our approval in the targets that were Science-Based Targets Initiative, our targets agreed on with SBTi, and with them we brought a very important history in the reduction of greenhouse effect gases. We were able to have our reduction target already based on what we already have. The objective for that was around 165 kilograms of equivalent carbon per ton of product. We expect to get it below 130 by 2025. A lot of that is already happening with the projects that are being implemented, and we should be able to get it under 100, under 90. Our objective is to get to 88.8, a reduction of 49% by 2035. Many people tell me or ask me if it's an ambitious target or not, and I can tell you, for those, we've reduced 64% over the last 15 years. It's quite ambitious, but we've been getting very far in our processes with the elimination of greenhouse effect gases, but we still believe we can do more, go further. To illustrate that, we bring you here an example of the Transition Pathway Initiative. This is public data that you can access on the Transition Pathway website, and we show you here. Maybe it doesn't look as clear for you at home that are looking at it, but there's three colors, from a darker blue to a lighter blue. The dark blue were the objectives before the Paris pledges. That lighter blue, we see what's actually going to bring the evolution of the planet's temperature to a maximum of 2 degrees, below 2 degrees is the trend. Klabin is at that lowest level there, below or under 0.2 CO2 tons per ton of product. We have another 2 companies at the same level with us. One of them is a great customer of ours, FL Smith, and the other is Suzano, another Brazilian company. So we are very well positioned here. And what Klabin has been working on and doing, we've been trying to engage our entire chain and our customers. We've had a very important participation this year at COP26. We were the only company that was invited to participate in the business meeting that was a select group of 10 global companies who worked directly with the organizers of COP26, with the British government, in the definition of the main steps for the industry, the private sector, and the very important launch of the net zero campaign that Klabin has embraced and launched the campaign in Brazil. Cristiano became our CEO, became the ambassador of ODS 13 in Brazil, working together with the Global Compact, SDG 13, with the Global Compact, and we launched this campaign called Impact on Net Zero together with the Global Compact, seeking the engagement of companies to adopt targets to reduce greenhouse effect gases.
We had a record participation of the Brazilian companies, and all companies, specifically the Brazilian companies participated on COP26. You have seen the results, and we consider them to be extremely relevant with the definition of the pricing system agreement for carbon commerce, also private commitments for net zero, and also the transition campaign financing, and also the resilience campaign. Once our global temperature has an increase of 1.1 degrees, and by 2030 it should be reaching 1.5 degrees. So important climatic events should be happening till then. As an important step, also how we are when compared to other sectors. Our pulp and paper industry is doing very well. I would say Klabin is at a very privileged position if we compare to other areas. Our sustainable economy, our renewable base do help a lot in carbon fixation and definition and implementation of new products, as you have seen in the prior presentations in everything we have done. An important concept difference that we should mention is regarding carbon. A lot is being discussed in terms of carbon and how you can base on carbon credits that should be established and redefined once they already existed in the base of Kyoto Protocol, but now in the base of Paris Agreement and also Glasgow Pledge, and it will move on. The carbon balance in itself, and we discussed that a lot in Klabin, we do have a positive carbon balance. We fixate a large amount of it. It is calculated by the difference between the amount of CO2 removed from the atmosphere with the tree planting and the reforestation and the stock that we have in preserved forests and what is emitted and the emissions by the industrial process. And the carbon credits are the representation of a carbon tonnage that was not removed from the atmosphere, and it was fixated. For this carbon credit, probably you might not have all the carbon balance that was credited in this line of carbon credit. For that, we need a principle that is called additionality. You have to contribute to the additional fixation of carbon. This is a very important step and is being discussed now in the forest area. We do have a base for that based on the Kyoto Protocol, the MDL, which is a clean development mechanism, and now we are transitioning to a new mechanism that might be called Sustainable Development Mechanism. And we have the carbon footprint, and that measures the amount of CO2 or CO2 equivalent, also considering other greenhouse gases that are absorbed in a direct or indirect way over the useful life of a product or service. And that's important so that we can understand the whole evolution here. And Klabin is also working on our sustainable finance. And we have been pioneer, and we are using the green bonds. Klabin has already issued sustainable bonds of $1.2 billion. And out of these 1.2, we already used 420 million. In this chart in the middle, you can see the allocation of our green bond resources over the past 4 or 5 years. That is starting in 2017. And we are using that mainly for our forest management. Therefore, we are able to fixate 16 million of carbon equivalent with the investment of this green bond. Also in renewable energy, we are making important investments, ensuring the removal of 148,000 tons of equivalent CO2 vis-a-vis the reduced emissions, as well as products and processes that are eco-efficient. Also important for our Klabin this year, we launched our sustainability-linked bond based on sustainability performances. In this index, we have 3 main goals that are very specific. And this launching was awarded the ISG Deal of the Year from Bonds and Loans. Marco Zivo and the whole team of IR, they received an award now in December in the US, and we are very proud of that as well. In terms of development and innovation and sustainability go hand in hand, and Klabin works focusing on the processes. Our sustainability is based on improvement processes, and also to have reductions in order to improve the environment, as well as have financial gains and opportunities, and mainly those related to the communities where we are at. What is new here is that we are moving now to a gasification process for wood. One of our focuses for Puma unit. This is a new project in the region for Latin America as well. We have here the potential to increase in 1.4% our renewable energy matrix with that. And also new, we have an integrated plant of sulfuric acid, and in this process we verticalized a little bit more, and this sulfuric acid plant will generate the acid by the residual gas. We use compounds of sulfur, that is the base of the sulfuric acid, in our annealing process. And by the recovery process, integrated to the recovery process, we will be able to reuse this residual gas and produce sulfuric acid in the same site. As already mentioned by Flavio, Douglas, and Nicolini, we have a lot of work being developed by our R&D and innovation teams in replacing plastic films by repulpable solutions, and also the multiple use of wood moving forward in lignin, and also the microfibrillated cellulose, MFC. Another important opportunity that we're looking for has to do with certifications and services. Part of what we see as opportunities are ecosystemic services, and Klabin has around 40% of its area as preserved native forests, and we were able to have an initial certification with FSC, Environmental Services, Biodiversity Conservation, Carbon Sequestration, our water areas, and also a new certification with black liquor. That is the main source of bioenergy, and also our FSC certification for Pinus lignin. Our impacts have been very positive throughout the whole chain, and we develop also social work with the communities. We already have involved in our process 43% of our suppliers, And also, another thing that is very important for us is that in the last 12 months, we went from 17 to 20% in terms of women in the organization. We have a legal forest. We already got the certification, or I'm sorry, the recovery of 19,000 hectares of protected and restored uh, areas from suppliers, from our vendors, with already over 1 million of seedlings planted in native forests. It's also important work in the communities where we are now. We launched our social indicator with 58 indicators. It's much broader than the IDH, and it is being followed up in 12 areas, in 12 cities in Paraná, and 15 in Santa Catarina. We also have an important work being developed in solid waste that we are implementing in different cooperatives, and we have a pioneer program of a 100% circular territory that is being developed in partnership of Telemaco Borba City Hall, Telemaco Borba administration, and we intend to have 100% of recyclable products for the region. Mata Sociais Social Woods is another important project for Klabin and its communities. It engages small and medium growers to this supply chain of Klabin and other companies in the region as well. This project already allowed for income increase for these growers, and we have around 600 properties involved. And another project that makes us very proud is sewing education. We have 14 cities, 11,000 students, and over 1,000 teachers, and we had an increase of 23% in our basic education development index. Important for Klabin also, some major achievements for this year. Some of them we maintained, such as the ISE, ICO2B3, WWF index, also the Bioeconomy World Forum, and commitments with the Global Compact, SBT, DCFD, EcoVadis in our supply system, and also two other important topics that are new now for November. Our presence in the Dow Jones Index for the second year in a row. Klabin improved in all the aspects that have been analyzed, either in the social area, environmental area, and also governance. And we had our best score of all times. And just yesterday, we found out that we got a AAA certification in the climatic change programs from CDP. We are one of the 14 global companies that participated out of the over 12,000 ones that, we are one of the 14 that got this index. All the team of Klabin of sustainability and innovation, and also process improvement projects, technology, automation technology, everyone worked together, and we also had the collaboration of all areas. That places us in a new avenue. Our motto has been work and boldness, and that allows us to have a more sustainable future. Thank you very much for your attention. Very good. Thank you very much, Francisco. And now to talk to us, and it's her first time at Klabin Day, is Ana Cristina Barcelos. Tina, she is our Director for People and Corporate Services, and she's going to talk about projects focusing on management and succession and about ILP for everyone. Please, Tina. Thank you, Adriana. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to talk to you this morning. As we have seen today, and we have seen over the years, Klabin has been having wonderful results, and mainly results that are sustainable over time. But none of that would be possible if we did not have a competent team, a committed team, and very engaged one. So this morning I will be talking about the two very relevant topics for us. The first one is succession, how we care about the succession in terms of our leadership Klabin in last years have been investing in accelerating the preparation of those that are mapped as potential successors in order to ensure not only the sustainability of the business, but also to encourage greater diversity, encouraging again great leadership practices and the turnover as development possibility. Talking about our results in terms of succession and the result of this work that we have been developing in the last few years, just looking at the last year, 64% of our changes to leadership positions have been filled in by internal succession. And if we look back in the last 5 years, this figure is of 67%, also showing how this work has been sustainable over time. We balance that out. We believe in the importance of having external oxygen into the company, but we are sure that we have prepared people to take over leadership position, and that also ensures the sustainability of our business for the future. Another topic that I would like to share with you, and talking up now, we now focus on our directors' compensation. Here, we see how the remuneration is balanced, how is the mix. 34% of our remuneration for top management is based on a fixed wage, 40% on the ICP, which is our variable compensation for the short term, and 26 on our long-term variable compensation. Talking about the long-term variable compensation, we have two main programs. One is called the matching, where the director can get the part of this short-term variable compensation and purchase companies' shares, and then the companies will match that. After 3 years, really, the director will really be the owner of these shares. And we also have another long-term variable compensation, which is called performance, and it is connected to long-term performance goals, and for 5 years here. In the long-term incentive program, we aim to have an alignment in our leadership, also retain our key professionals, and to ensure a performance that is in line with our long-term objectives. And something new that we have, there is a long-term incentive program for all our employees in the leadership team and also our experts. We already have that. And there's something else that is new for next year, which is to have a long-term incentive for all our employees. This is a proposal that has been already submitted and approved by our board of directors, and it should be approved by the shareholders meeting next year. We believe that with this program, we can improve the engagement of our employees in creating future values for the company. And how does that work? Just as the same, our matching program that I mentioned for our top executives. All Klabin's employees, all employees of all levels, they will work with part of the profit-sharing program that's optional. They can get up to 10% of what they received in terms of profit-sharing program. They can purchase company shares. The company will match them, and that is also be related to a investing period of 3 years. When we reflected and designed this program, which is very innovative, especially here in Brazil, where very few companies have this type of program to all levels of employees, we have seen the results that we were able to get with the long-term incentive program that we were able to get with experts and coordinators. When we launched this program for coordinators and specialists, it was amazing to see the engagement of all of them in terms of following up the company's results and understand the impact of their work in the company's value generation. And so we did have an extraordinary engagement result, much higher than what we imagined. So we had this idea of expanding the same program to all levels of the organization. We have here the maximum investment of this program. If all employees choose to acquire the maximum number of units. It's a small cost of 12 million, considering the huge potential return that it might bring us in terms of engagement, in terms of interest in following up the results, and especially knowing everyone's impact in value generation and result creation for the company. These were the two main topics that I had to bring to you and share. So I will be available to take your questions at the end. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tina. And now for the financial results of the company and the strategies for Klabin's growth, I will turn the floor to Marcos Ivo, our CFO and IR officer. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure once again to be part of the Klabin Day. I'm also happy because we see presentations with positive results, but especially a future full of opportunities to grow and to continue generating value. We have seen in the presentations of our business units with Nico, Douglas, and Flavio how Klabin has been consistent in its strategy. And the consistency also in communicating with investors. When we look at what we communicated in the same event in 2016, and remember that in 2016, Klabin was just starting to operate Puma One, a huge investment that has extended the company's leverage. Even then, at that moment, we were saying that the next years would bring more growth and more integration. That is, a greater participation in the business of corrugated boxes, especially. In 2018, with a greater clarity that we would do, and the company was already very close to a balance sheet that would allow it to make another investment. In the Klabin Day of 2018, we also gave you another sign that we would have a growth cycle with kraft coated board and greater share of corrugated box in the Brazilian market, and also the bottling and other projects of high return, which are part of Klabin's history already. When we compared what was effectively done, and now we are getting to the end of 2021, we found a great compliance to what was said in terms of the strategy's execution that was communicated to the market in the past. The company carried out several small projects, but with very high return, as the last package of 340 million that we announced in June of this year. We acquired assets of corrugated boxes for AP in Brazil that allowed us to have 6% of market share in this business, strengthening Klabin's leadership. And now our special project, Puma 2, with this first stage already in production and the second stage being produced with kraft and coated board. All of that, that compliance to the strategic planning, the execution in line to what we executed and previously communicated to the market is followed by growing results. And these results are consistent. 2021, and now we can state that safely, will be the 12th year in which Klabin increases its EBITDA continuously. We believe that this result, in addition to investments, is possible thanks to the business model of this company, which is integrated because we work from the forest up to packages developed with our papers. It's diversified because we have several products. We have 3 pulp fibers, and I should highlight fluff and long fiber, kraft paper, coated board, and all the packages that are developed with these papers. So this integration and diversity allow Klabin to have diversity to work in several markets, adapting to the economy's cycles and also the price cycles of our own products. And this is an example that we always like to mention, the integration of corrugated box and kraft. When Brazil is going very well and GDP is growing in Brazil, and there is a strong demand of corrugated box. We reduce the export volume when we integrate this paper in corrugated boxes. And the other way around also works because it is very easy for Klabin to export more this paper. And this goes also for the geography. So this is a crucial pillar of Klabin's results. Our business model allows us to have a great navigation throughout different economic cycles. I talked about consistency in strategy and the growth that we have from there. We talked about the growing and resilient EBITDA, but just as important is the return on capital, on invested capital. And Klabin explained that to the market, especially in the past years, that we would have a changing level in terms of ROIC with Puma 1. Puma 1 would be a transforming machine because it would allow us to have the right profit in the forest asset. We had a huge forest in Paraná that was used in Puma 1, and also because the result of the project, this was a project as it was proven to be of a very high return, in addition to the transformation it brought to Klabin, allowing the company to have cash generation to continue investing in other projects of also a high return, allowing us to associate these three areas and bring the company to another level of profitability and a higher ROIC. So how do we see the company's investment ability? The company grew and it changed the level it was at, and now we have a greater investment capacity. When we developed Puma 1 in the past, and we would look at the size of the investment vis-a-vis the operating cash generation of the company measured by the EBITDA, we had a very high multiple. That's why we reached a high leverage in 2016 pre-start of the operation. Then we took 3 years to deleverage the company. And it was this period of time between Puma 1 and Puma 2 that we needed to be deleveraged. And how do we see that now? In an easier way, because the size of investments and the cash generation of the company is lower. And this you can see here in the screen. When we started Puma 2 in the second quarter of 2019, the leverage measured by net debt over EBITDA in dollars by Klabin was of 3 times. When we communicated the project to the market, we stated that the leverage would be much lower than what it had been in Puma 1. And this now is already delivered to all of you. We can also safely say that the Puma 2 leverage peak is over. It was 4 times between the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Right now, the company already has a leverage that is similar to the moment when it announced the Puma 2 project, and we should not be leveraging ourselves up in the second stage of the project. Now, talking about the future. This is a snapshot of capital allocation for Klabin in 2022. Klabin has a policy which is public. It's available on our website about investors' remuneration. This is our dividends policy and also interest and equity policy. And under these policies, we will be paying dividends in between 15 and 25% of the adjusted EBITDA. Klabin usually is in the average here in 20%, and what we expect for next year is to follow on the same level. In terms of expected investments for 2022, it's 4.7 billion, approximately 2.8 billion disbursements for phase 2 of Puma 2. 420 million reais for special projects. The disbursement of the approved projects for in June of this year that were communicated to the market, and the remaining amount for maintenance capex for forest and industrial maintenance. And what can we expect from the future? I think the title of this slide, Continuous Growth, well translates how we see the future. We were talking about growth cycles, and now the word that best adjusts to what we aim is continuous growth, especially because of the markets in which Klabin has a footprint at. And these markets are better today than what they were a few years ago. So we have major trends already discussed here, and they strengthen the demand for these markets is strengthened, and especially because of Klabin's capacity to invest. We have greater capacity to invest now because the company has grown, and also we have greater future projects. So what you expect that is a company that had a CAGR of 19%, Klabin's EBITDA in the last 10 years has increased 19% a year. So we expect it to continue this growth, facing all the factors that I mentioned, growing in the main business lines that we have now: fluff, long fiber, kraft liner, sack kraft, recycled paper, and also in packaging.
And I conclude my session here sharing a consideration with you very similar to the one I made at the end of this event last year. And we consider it even more valid today than we did a year ago. We believe that Klabin is a company that has unique features for value generation. It's a company with very clear growth opportunities, which has grown and has very clear growth opportunities. It's a company with a beta that is below 1. And even more than that, it's a company that we easily see in its results, its resilience and stability. No wonder we increased our EBITDA over the last 12 years. We've improved, and our return on invested capital is at very adequate levels. The investments that Klabin has made in the past years assure us that this return will remain at a good level in the coming years. All of that combined in a world that is watching sustainability closer. The capital market is starting to look into this topic as well. Klabin, without a doubt, is a global reference for sustainability, not only according to our self-evaluation, but as clearly displayed in two important levels, Dow Jones Sustainability Index and CDP. So the thought that I leave you with is how much these features are reflected in the company's pricing models. Thank you very much. Excellent, Ivo. Thank you. It's very gratifying to see that Klabin has lived up to the promises made in the past and will continue delivering solid results in the future. So let's move to Cristiano Teixeira's final remarks, the Director General of Klabin. So, Cristiano, please. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you all very much. So this conversation that we're seeking today is to sell the company. That's our job. You're an investor, an individual. That's a new audience for us that we are always seeking to explain ourselves better. Institutional investors, major investors, you all have views that are different from the company's view. But I'll try to summarize it in simpler terms in the day-to-day reality so that we can recognize the company's role not only in its routine, but it's in its projections and future views. Look, it's very difficult, especially for you, the individual investor who may not be able to understand the complexity of the business, but we're oftentimes called a complex company. But it's simple. It's very difficult, nearly impossible to walk in a supermarket aisle in Brazil, especially aisles that sell food products or cleaning hygiene products, that you don't see a package that is a Klabin product. It's very unlikely that you do your personal care every day without using a Klabin product. It's very unlikely that women in their intimate routines don't use a Klabin product, or elderly people or anyone that ends up using Klabin products. It's very unlikely that you don't use a Klabin product in your daily life. At this time in Brazil, but more and more so in the whole world, Klabin today is present in R&D centers of all of the major brands in the world. Our R&D department, our scientists are dedicated on product fronts to develop solutions that are biodegradable, the trends that are in line with what we hear from society and its behavior, what we heard at COP26. So Klabin is a complex company, yes, but it is managed by people of the highest quality, people who are focused. We have excellence centers and development centers for all our products that we work with. Therefore, a company that has this feature, that for more than 120 years has been developing products dedicated to behavior, and that is increasingly more recognized for its forestry-based products. But it's a company that is not intimidated. It respects its past, it knows its history, but it looks towards the future without intimidation. So please go back to some of the events that we hold and look. And I'm not being pretentious. We want to be humble and with the serenity that we always present to you investors. But look at which company was it that started bringing the issues and trends for replacing single-use plastics in Brazil, maybe in the world. Go and look at who it is that brought an eucalyptus-based product that was so innovative. When we talked about this product in the beginning, this product was not exactly recognized for everyone as a high likelihood of happening, in fact. And then we said this product would be sold before the machine even started. So we have the recognition, at least internally in our own group, the recognition that we live up to our promises. We make it a point to invest and grow the company without losing sight of this close relationship with you investors, making the payment of proceeds that attract you to participate in this company. We are very proud of what we're building, of our past that brought the content that this company represents in terms of development, participating in businesses around the world. But maybe there is no other company in our industry with the relative growth potential that we have in all markets where we operate, as Klabin does. Thank you all very much, and it will be my pleasure to answer your questions in a little minute. Thank you again, Cristiano. And now we will have our question and answer session about the information presented and the future projects of Klabin. If you have not yet submitted your question, click on the chat and submit your doubt and tell us who it is for. We have some questions here already. Ricardo Monegalia from Morgan Stanley sent 2 questions, actually, without directing to whom he's asking. I'll read them and you help me see who answer. But in your view, the feeling in the pulp markets per region is different today when compared to what we talked about in the results presentation. What's the main change in the Chinese market that probably opened room for announcements of price increase in pulp? Second question, the prices of kraftliner on FOEX remain strong at $950 per ton, and the favorable exchange rate for the company, which in our math can generate margins above 55%. It would help us to get an update in the payback sensitivity and IFF and EBITDA. Who can answer the first question? Thank you, Adriana. Now, regarding our feeling, especially in the Chinese market, there was all this expectation that the decrease on demand that we were facing since around May of this year until about September that this could somehow contaminate the other geographies. There was also an expectation that the reduction of shipments that was significant over the last 10 months year on year, they got to 10%. In absolute numbers, this is about 2 million tons. This deviation of volumes per geography ended up not having an impact on price in other geographies because in cases like Europe, United States, even Brazil, they remained with a demand that was higher than expected, resulting that the market remained strong. China movements at this time, the pipeline is somehow empty. This expressive decrease in shipments made the chain to be at low levels, very low. The Chinese New Year starts in February next year, so traditionally November, December, and January are stronger months in terms of consumption, but we also start to see a slight improvement in terms of the machine occupancy rate in the different paper segments. So all of these features ended up leading to an increase on price of $20 that was recently announced for the month of December. Ricardo, you are correct. The fundamentals of the kraft market, as Flavio mentioned on his presentation, are better. The prices today are at very healthy levels, and it's important to say that they are on healthy levels because the market fundamentals are good. So that means that the economic return, as measured by any of the indicators that you mentioned for the Puma II project, is better today than it was a year ago, and it's better today than it was when we announced the project. Excellent. Rafael Barcelos from Santander also has two questions. He did not specify who he's asking these to. But first, could you comment a little bit about the price dynamic for OCCs, and if you see any change in the drop of prices for boxes, and if you can talk about the price increase level for coated boards for 2022. So the OCC prices are stable at around 1,000 reais per ton in the southeast of Brazil. We'll always have a pressure for cost optimization, of course, but the demand remains good, and the projection for us for the next year is of good demand. And so we want to maintain our margins and our results at this profitability levels. And the second question? So answering the question, we have very solid fundamentals or bases. We have a low entry capacity in the type of products that we make. It's more of a contracted market. The prices are more stable. And they have had important adjustments in 2021. Part of it will be naturally visible in 2022 with the expiry of the contract. So the two-digit growth will be there for sure. Wonderful, thank you. Now Marcio Farid from Goldman Sachs sent his questions. Good morning. Can you please talk about the vision on supply and demand for the kraft liner market globally? We also saw some plants in China recently converting to produce kraft liner from short fibers. How does Klabin stand out in terms of these products compared to other companies? It's me again. So first, we see that mature economies are doing quite well. In our base scenario, the United States remains with significant growth, Europe as well. The United States is a major player in the global market for kraft liner. Throughout this year, they collected 1 million tons. So being the largest exporter and maintaining that in their domestic market have allowed the prices to behave as we all saw. The base scenario is still that. We see the entry of capacity, especially in recycled papers, or the major continents, United States, Europe, and Asia, and it should bring some rebalance of supply and demand, but still maintaining prices at a high level with some correction towards the end of the year. About the specific Eucaliner question, made 100% of eucalyptus fiber, it's not trivial. Klabin has had that for decades. Klabin had a conversion in 2000, 2002 of a journal paper, Machine 6, to the kraftliner world, and it remains a productive machine. And with that machine, we started to learn on how to use eucalyptus, and it was the support for all of our current developments to be able to launch now Machine 27, Machine 28. And that's how we treat the surface as well. We have specific equipment that have brought important benefits to this product. But it is a trend. Klabin has challenged the industry that is anchored on long fibers, but it will be a trend for the future to see a share of short fiber naturally in this market, because we want a competitive product to compete with the plastics market, for example. Excellent. We have two questions here from Cole Harthorn. First one is for Flavio. Slide 22 is interesting. The change from plastic to paper has been visible in the growth of the box volume with your European competitors, but it's been said that this growth will be even greater, and your slide suggested an increase of 1%. Does this corroborate the view that the demand may be bigger in the future? The global prices of containerboard are high, and in my opinion, they will be higher for longer. So what do you see as the main positive and negative points for the market in 2022? And the second question will be to Douglas. I'll read it now. What are the challenges to lead customers to change from plastic to paper? The higher cost of paper compared to plastic, user shelf life, machinery at the customers. Can you give us an idea of how long this may take from the initial meetings until the paper package gets down to the customer's lines? We'll start with Flavio, the first question. Thank you. It's a very interesting question. First, just a correction. The slide was not very clear, but what we have there is volume in million of tons, not percentage. The caption was missing. But as I said before, many of the consulting firms, including those who Klabin has worked with, have a more conservative view in terms of the potential for migration. They look at the simpler side, where technology is not a barrier. We can replace some plastics today directly. But they also look at the investments made in machines that do this bottling or this packaging, and they will depreciate and have the correct time for replacement, as well as the side that depends on technology advances, more complicated barriers, water vapor, oxygen for the LPB market will take longer, but the consulting firms tend to be more conservative. We do see a potential that goes beyond the projections. I have an example on China. China did a very relevant transformation of its fiber basis. They moved from recycled fibers. They were the largest importer in the world of recycled fibers, and today they collect and buy more virgin fiber, both in paper and pulp. But they also did an important transformation in terms of consolidation. The main paper players there today are larger. Less efficient plants have been closed or incorporated, and it also promotes, at least in terms of volume, a very relevant transformation in the plastics universe. So an important share of the investments in that continent is precisely to meet this demand, and a lot of this paper will stay there within the country, replacing, for example, plastic bags and sacks. This is a very interesting scenario, a balanced scenario that shows potential that goes beyond what has been projected so far. Thank you, Flavio. Now, Douglas, if you need, I can repeat the question. No, it's fine. In the past, 5 years ago, it was a lot more difficult to show to customers this view of the entire chain of the product, looking at the impacts and the disconnection of their product in plastic would have with the consumer, all the costs involved in the chain. Today, this is a lot easier. The customer understands better the connection that our product has with the market. And paper packages do not have a cost that is higher than the total cost of the chain of other raw materials. And after the customer has made the decision to change and make this connection for the future, that is better for the future, within about 2 months, we are capable of changing and taking the product down to the consumer. Excellent, thank you. Now we have two questions from Caio Greiner, BTG Pactual. The first is, what's the idea for growth with this MFC plant? Would it be restricted only to the coated board and packaging markets, or can it also include other markets? And the second question, you talked about this expressive growth that is expected for the bags market. How do you expect to meet this demand? What are the expansion plans, conversion for bags within the company? So who take the first? Me, Adriana Francisco. Thank you for your question. This is a very interesting recurring topic. Klabin has invested in the pilot MFC plant. It worked full on even during the epidemic. It went through the tests we had in our industrial units. We have tested MFC at all types of papers. When we have this integration in-house, we can manage that quickly. But we continue with development with other sectors. We see a potential for cosmetics and other markets we've been working with, and we will certainly hear more from MFC in new markets, even with some new surprises coming in the next year, and we have been working very hard on this. Have you heard about Arbol? Not me. Oh, you will. So thank you, Francisco. Who'll answer the second question? So please, Cristiano. Thank you. So our bags unit, as Douglas mentioned, came from growth rates of kraft bags. It went from 1 to 4%. So this is an area where we're very confident. We're very focused on growth. We're one of the few companies in the world with the capacity, because we have long fiber, we have the capacity to bring organic growth to this industry, and it is within our priorities, without a doubt. Now, next question is for you, Nico, from Cadu Schmidt, UBS. Nico, can you talk about the possibility of future investments to increase the fluff capacity of Klabin? Is it possible to have a higher capacity of the machines compared to the current capacities? Thank you, Adriana. Thank you for your question, Cadu. Now, about the current line, machine 26, we already operated at its limit of capacity, as I said before. It's a machine that has been performing above nominal capacity with expressive gains, record speeds, and we don't see any expressive growth in coming years. So as for the future, I'll let Cristiano tell you more about it. Well, I think that in line with everything that has been said, what's new for everyone to understand our steps from now on, what's new is that Klabin can increase its capacity in all markets where we act today, with some advantages, but I'll bring one that's significant because it's based on consolidated sites. Today, we can bring an increase of capacity and reduction of number of machines with the greater dilution of the site's fixed cost. So both in fluff and kraft and sack kraft that I brought here, we study investments that improve the company's average profitability. I always say, and that's not only today, it's been some years now, that the new capacities that are coming in the products where we act are coming with a cash cost that's always higher, especially with our competitors, due to the access to forest. In our case, we always bring capacities at increasingly better cash costs, either because of the productivity of our forests increasing, or we increase the radius of the average distance, but especially because of the dilution of fixed costs. And when we go down to the product price, all of the products we work with today, and I've also been saying this for some time now, have a trend of reaching price improvements, of actual gains in dollar, because they're products that are in line with the coming trends. So we see Klabin with a future profitability gain together with volume growth. Thank you, Cristiano. We have a question for Douglas now from André Vidal, XP Investments. Good morning. Congratulations on the event. In corrugated boxes, 2021 was a year of volumes, prices, and margins at a high. How does the company see prices and margin for corrugated boxes in 2022? What type of impact the ramp-up of the new kraftliner machine may have in corrugated boxes? Thank you for the question. For next year, we project a year of growth in corrugated boxes. We've had cost pressures, but our price increases this year also carry to next year in terms of prices for the average of next year. So we expect at least equal the same margins, but more combined with the demand that in today's view will be good. And we expect that with diversification of the demand, we will be able to improve margins and increase what we have today. But it's a view of at least maintaining our margins. Thank you, Douglas. We have here two questions from Daniel Sasson from Itaú. The first one for Cristiano. Can you share with us which ones do you consider to have been the main advances of COP26? In practical terms, how fast do you think we'll have a regulated global carbon market? And when monetization of carbon credits that respect that additionality principles could happen? The second question to Nico is, today we see a gap of more than $200 per ton between prices in Europe and China. You benefit from that, considering the reduction of exposure to China over the last few quarters. To what have you attributed this gap, and until when can it be sustained? How's the demand for pulp in Asia? So we'll start with Cristiano, please. Great, thank you for the question. So COP26 was a special event. It probably will be part of the history books, but it was below what was recognized by scientists and as what actually needs to be done. The simple fact that COP26 was as an entity has recognized the frailty of some decades of lack of action on this topic is in itself something positive, the ability of recognizing what was not done. Among the outcomes of this conference, of course, the declarations for the end of deforestation is crucial has been for quite some time, and coming from the conference with this commitment and the Brazilian state being included is something important. Methane reduction is also important, so that we're not only focused specifically on CO2. Methane has its importance as well in global warming. But now, getting into practical terms that I understand as the second part of your question, Klabin has been voicing its opinion on this subject. It was a choice that we executives made. Together we evaluated and assessed what would be the exposure level that we would face addressing this topic with the sense of urgency that it required. And we usually bring this up without silver bullets. There's no miracle solution. And whenever we talk about the carbon market, we do have positive expectations, but we prefer to start off by saying that more important than the carbon market, the regulated carbon market especially, because it will definitely bring an incentive to the good companies now on the private sector to invest more and more in the reduction of CO2 emissions and penalizing those who don't. But even more than that, it's that guarantee of accountability of the physical and the commercial intentions of the carbon market. So to make sure that this molecule is extracted from the atmosphere and can only be traded based on this concept and always considering the country's objective. So this is a flag that here at Klabin we always bring first into context, the real-life context of working directly with the ambition to reduce the planet's temperature, at least containing the planet's temperature. Opportunities, as Chico said and explained so well, this additionality means something that you have not yet done. We need to extract more molecules, and from this new extraction that may be in technology, replacing a piece of equipment, Francisco brought a technology that's the gasification of biomass, removing the consumption of combustible fuel. So technologies like that will have a process, protocol, and framework to consider additionality. This will generate a certificate. The certificate may be traded. The value of the certificate today we see in some volunteer markets traded at $5, and in some unregulated markets, especially in the northern hemisphere, we see it at $50 or more. So it's important to find the balance for that. That's why it's important to have a global regulated market so that we can have a convergence of this demand with a lot of the supply that will come from Brazilian assets. So it is a reality. The agreement has been signed, and now we need to translate that into legislation in the countries, commitments, and the next conference. Until it happens, these things will have to happen. Otherwise, there will be global disappointment. And what plays in favor to the COP26 being a plural environment with so many people plays against it in the next edition for those who do not deliver what has been promised, because they will require that. We need to deliver.
Excellent. Nico, your turn. Danielle, good morning, and thank you for your question. This difference in margins between the prices of Europe and China can be explained by a few topics. The first of them is that since the beginning of the third quarter, we have seen the Chinese administration placing some type of restriction and try to contain price inflation, therefore controlling liquidity in the market. And that happened throughout the first half of the year. Also, China's market was being highly pressured because of the logistics limitations for export. And a third topic has to do to the restriction of carbon of coal use as an energy matrix, and that also affects industries in China. But now in Europe was growing strong. Several of our clients had a performance 20% higher than the budgeted for the year. Demand for special papers, tissues, packages, and therefore European demand remained robust. This price gap, I only see it coming down, reducing, but because of higher prices in China. The short-term perspective for Europe is positive. And in China, we start seeing, at least in the coming months, from December up to the midst of the Chinese New Year, February of next year, robust market in terms of demand and with growth. Thank you. We have here two questions from George Staphos from Bank of America Merrill Lynch. First, for Douglas or Flavio, in which final markets you see that Eucalyptus has a difficult performance? And second, maybe for Cristiano or Marcos Ivo. Thank you very much, and thank you all officers for the presentation. Is it possible to discuss what type of production volume that Klabin will have up to 2030, and when you will start your next investment cycle? Flavio, first question. Hello, George. Well, I'd like to talk about the right fiber where you need it. Short fiber where you need it, long fiber where it makes sense, and fluff where it makes sense. Eucalyner, especially for lighter products or intermediate products. So we are not fighting for the heavy industrial boxes market. Eucalyner also allow you to have a better performance in your corrugated box machine. So we do not see value added in markets where the conversion technological industries is behind. They will not extract the value, but in a premium market, more related to export of food, protein, fruits, vegetables, in these fast machines, it makes sense. Another market in which it performs very well when we don't want to get large boxes at home, with empty spaces we want to receive at our homes, boxes with a good quality, and Eucalyner has a great performance in this area, both in Eucalyner white and premium boxes, and also conventional Eucalyner because they're more smooth than the conventional products. Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think the answer, of where we will be at in 2030, that involves our history, where Klabin was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, Klabin was a company of 1.5 million ton, well established in its markets of packaging. It had consistent clients. At the time, it was already focused in foods and markets with high resilience, growing above the GDP and so on. Now, Klabin today, so we were 1.5 million 10 years ago, and I'm just talking about volumes. And the EBITDA, you can see that is public information, how many times and how much our EBITDA has increased. But we were a company of 1.5 million tons, and now, with the volume of machine 28, because it's already being built, and we believe that you already know that we deliver what we say we'll be delivering. So with machine 28, we will be delivering 4.7. So from 1.5 million to 4.7 million tons now. And even a sounder company than it was before. Throughout this period, we challenged ourselves in several areas, among them research and development, innovation, establishing cultural movements in the company that would drive attitude to growth. So we are sure, we are confident that this growth pace of the company that we have had so far, it will continue for the next 10 years. Excellent. So many interesting questions, so many topics we're able to tackle here in our Q&A session. Unfortunately, we ran out of time for our Q&A session. Thank you very much for all of you that brought your questions, and also thank you for all of you that accepted our invitation and participated on this event. And now, Klabin was recognized for its performance in the market by APIMEC, the Capital Market Analysts and Investment Professionals Association, with the APIMEC Platinum 2021 attendance seal. To talk more about this recognition, I would like to invite Mara Limongi, Director of Business and Events Relations. Please, Mara, welcome. Thank you, Adriana. What a nice day. Thank you all of Klabin's officers for this day. That's very important for the capital market, with a lot of transparency and commitment. These are not my adjectives. They came from the last assessment by the capital market that was carried out, and I agree with all these adjectives. Klabin is always committed with the capital market, and I'm here to celebrate this period. We have 20 years of partnership between Klabin and APMEC, bringing the best information with transparency, governance, and equity for all market professionals. In the last year, we had a large number of investors, individual investors, going into B3 to invest. And that makes it even more important that moments like this happen so that information can reach our investors sent by our capital market professionals. Thank you very much, Klabin. I would like to, Cristiano, ask you to come over. So I'd like to give you this attendance seal from APMEC. Congratulations, and congratulations to all of the officers for this such important moment in the capital market. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mara. Congratulations to all our officers. Congratulations, Klabin. We'll have now a press conference, and to all journalists that will be participating, that's an important message now. Please connect to the Zoom link that you have received. So that's where the press conference will be held, at the Zoom session, in a few minutes as we connect. So have a nice day. Thank you.